Jai Hind everyone. I am Kajal Kaushal, Assistant Professor of Department of Information Technology from Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. Today, I am here with this video lecture covering the topic of instruction formats. It is the key concept in the computer organization and architecture. Well, what do we mean by the instruction format? Basically, it's a language, it's a way of making the CPU understand what it needs to do and how it needs to perform the certain operation. But how are we going to understand what exactly is the instruction format? How do the system chooses a particular instruction format and what's the scenario behind it? But before we dive deep inside it, we need to understand the basic terminologies, basic fundamentals that are covered in the COA. So basically, our system is comprising of multiple parts like the memory units, like the addressing modes, like the software, hardware, anything, everything. So we can say in a nutshell that it's the functional units is having mainly 4 to 5 important parts: the input unit, the output unit, memory unit, and the CPU. Whereas the CPU is having the data path as well as the control unit. Data path and control unit decides how the instructions are being executed at a certain hardware level itself. We need to know about it. Moreover, there is the memory organization and we all know the memory hierarchy. It consists of starting from the registers, it moves towards the cache, the main memory, then the secondary memory. Before understanding the instruction format, we need to understand that there are certain addressing modes that will be covered in the coming video lecture. But that addressing mode is where the operand, or we can say the value, the data on which the instruction has to be executed, needs to be fetched. So it may be direct or it may be indirect. It is based solely upon the type of addressing mode that are being used. But what type of instruction format is to be used, that depends upon the type of architecture that's in the system, that's inside the system. So basically, we are having two words here: computer architecture and computer organization. Okay. And all the instruction that I am talking about comprises of four steps. We can say the 4 steps. These are the fetch, decode, execute, and store. Fetches the basic instruction from the memory, and then decode means by using the particular decoder, it understands what it needs to do. Then the instruction is executed. That is the part of this is the part of the control unit. We can say is the part of the control unit. It fetches, decodes, and then executes and then stores the particular value in the memory or to the output peripheral itself, wherever it wants to, wherever is the position located. And all this moves with 4 to 5 steps, starting from the micro program. Then it moves towards various micro instructions, which are then further divided into multiple micro operations. All the micro operations are having the same cycle within itself, the same fetch, decode, execute, and store. Okay, so all these input peripherals, then the control signals, the transferring of data, whatever I am saying, that are done inside the system using different input-output peripherals, the CPU, the inside part of the CPU, that is the ALU, the control unit. All this is happening via certain path. That path is called as the system bus. That is the system bus actually comprises of CPU, the input output peripherals, and the memory itself. Beyond that, we are having input output bus or any other bus also. But when these main components are there in that part, it is called as the system bus. Okay, and I have already discussed that there are various addressing modes by which the operand are to be fetched. Now, our main concern is the instruction format that we will be discussing in this video, that what type of instruction formats are there. But I have already said that two words are there: computer organization and computer architecture. Now, organization, what exactly is the organization? When we are not aware what to do, then we need to define something in our mind, that what is our requirement. That is, suppose if I take the example of a certain the character that the children admire, like the Avengers or Marvel character, we see that according to their need, according to the situation, they become the Iron Man, they become the Spider-Man. That is their need. The requirement is that as per the situation, they convert them into one person to another. That means that they decide what they need to do. When the question is what they need to do, then it is called as the computer architecture. That what will happen, what are the functional requirements, what are the designing aspects, and when we confirm that yes, this character is now converted into the Iron Man, or this character is now converted into the this Marvel character Spider-Man, that means that person has realized what was his requirement, and now it has transformed, he has transformed himself into another person. That transformation, that how he has transformed, the question, the answer to the question how, it becomes a part of the computer organization. Likewise, in the computer architecture, we discuss what to do. That means the designing part. The designing part comprises of the instruction set, the instruction set architecture, and the instruction set architecture, that means ISA, varies from system to system. If it is Intel, it will have a certain different type of instruction set architecture. If it is AMD, then it will have another type of instruction set architecture. Moreover, again, the micro architecture will be different and the system architecture will be different. Based on what to do, the functional requirements, the designing aspects change from system to system, from different processor to different processor. Ideology behind that is what type of instruction format do we require for answering to our question. That is the main aim of the computer architecture. That means, in a gist, we can say computer architecture decides what to do. It decides the designing part. It decides the functional requirements, and the computer organization answers to how to do, what are the values, what are the inputs that have to be considered. For example, if we are adding two certain digits and we are talking about the half adder, then we can say that if it is 0 and 0, our value of the sum will be 0, our carry will be 0. Okay. If it is 1 and 1, then our sum will be 0 and our carry will be 1. Okay. But this is the requirement. This is the part of the computer architecture, that what needs to be done. We need to add two bits, right? We need to add two bits and we need to have the values of carry and sum. But if we talk about the computer organization, then our answer should be, how are we going to achieve it? And suppose we are having the NAND gates, the universal NAND gates with us. Then what we will do? We will place a NAND gate here. We will give the input to this part, and then we will move towards this. We will add another AND gate here. We will add one more AND gate here, and the same value will move to this part. Here also this value will move to this part. This value will move to another AND gate. Okay. Likewise, and by this we will be having another AND gate this will give us the sum, and this will give us the carry. So we see that our requirement was just to add 2 bits to get the sum and carry. Then by deciding that we will be using the universal NAND gates, we chose this, making the half adder, the designing the half adder. So this was the part of the computer architecture. And both the computer organization and computer architecture decides the hardware components, how they are connected, how they interact with each other, and it also determines the performance, the optimization of our system. It decides the software compatibility. It helps us to design the hardware as well. Okay, so this is the way our system interacts. Our system interacts with each and every. This is the part of the CPU. This is the part of the CPU, and the CPU is having the registers, the ALU, the timing and the control unit. Via this interface, here also the buses are there, the internal buses are there, and via the system bus, all are connected to each other. The input-output peripherals, if they want, then they can give the input directly, or if they want, they can directly use the memory by direct memory access. Moreover, the solution, the output of the program, the output of all the instructions that when executed can be stored directly to the output peripheral, or it can be stored in the memory for the future use. Likewise, when the inputs are wanted, then it can be given to the memory beforehand, or it can be given to the system directly by using the system bus. The instruction set architecture can use any of the instruction set. It can use directly the load and having the operand. This is the part of the operand, or it can use the 2-register address. Here it is using the 3-register address, or it is just using the stack organization. Either it uses the accumulator, either it uses multiple registers for flexibility, or it uses the accumulator. If it uses the accumulator, meanwhile it can be called as the single accumulator organization for the processor. If it uses the register, then we say then it is the general register organization of the processor. If it uses stack, then it is the stack organization. So we can say instruction set architecture depends upon the type of the processor that we have chosen beforehand. That means the computer architect, when we were talking about the computer architecture, in that part also I referred that here only the instruction set architecture is being decided as to which type of instruction set we are going to use. Either we will be using the general processor, general register organization, or we can use the stack organization, or we can use the single accumulator based on the requirement, based on the need. It solely depends on what type of requirement do you have. Okay. So basically we can say the instruction format is a language. It's a sentence. In an analogy with English, we can say that it's a combination of verb, noun and preposition. That means how to do, what to do, and upon what it has to be done. So it is a combination of verb, then noun, and then preposition. Actually the computer wants to do the task, it performs the task, and it uses certain fields. These fields are basically the operands. Like we can say some source is there, some destination is there, and something has to be done, something has to be acted upon. Like if we say add R1, R2, that means we are using the operand that is lying inside the register R2 and adding it to the destination register R1 and storing there itself, and storing in the R1 there itself. So here we can say the noun preposition and the verb that I was talking about is that verb will be the add, that means it has to be done. The destination and source tells us the what, where, from where, on what it has to be executed. And also we can say the source is sending the operand, and this part is telling what to do, and the result is being stored in the destination. Based on this, we can have, when we have selected the general register organization, so that means we are having multiple registers here. Now, more the register are there, more long is the instruction format. It will be quite long. It will be having it will occupy a huge amount of memory. It will require space. So, if the task is small, then we can move to the smaller section, that is one address. But if the task is long, then we can use the longer instruction format and can use more memory. Our task will be done. So, basically it's a trade-off. Trade-off means it's a trade-off that more the requirement, more the memory, it will result in the single line of code. It will have a single instruction format, but the memory that we will be using will be quite large. So, the instruction is of various length, and I have already told that it depends upon the what type of computer organization, what type of processor organization are we following. Whether we are using a single accumulator, or we are using various registers. Register 1 may be there, register 2 may be there, register 3 may be there. And all these registers, and moreover, we can also use a simple data structure of the stack, which functions on the last in and first out. That means a simple data structure helps us to execute our instructions by acting upon all the operands that lies inside the stacks. So, instruction fields, we can say a simple instruction is having three parts. First is the mode field that specifies the way of operand, and the second is the opcode, what to do, and the third part is the address. And these addresses now depends upon the type of organization we are using. If we are using a single accumulator, that means we will be having a single address over here. The accumulator itself, this is itself saying that all the instructions that are to be executed are finishing off in the accumulator itself. We need not repeat each and every time that yes, the another operand is the accumulator. No, it is explicitly decided that it's the accumulator only, and accumulator is carrying the data, accumulator is fulfilling the requirements of the opcode and saving the result, saving the store in the accumulator itself. At the last, we can save that particular information in any other memory word. This is the memory word. Any word that we represent by M, it's the memory word. So, we can further, at the end of the instruction, we can further save that particular data in the memory, but beforehand only the accumulator is being used. In the general register organization, we have a flexibility to use multiple registers. We can use either a single register, that means in the RISC processor that we know, here multiple registers, beside using the multiple registers, we use the one register organization because we reuse the same register again and again. It saves the cost also. So, that's why the RISC organization, the RISC processor organization has incorporated this particular characteristic of the CISC processor organization. Earlier, it was the CISC that uses that reusability criteria. Then in the third, that is the stack organization, here we need not give any address. That means it's a zero address instruction format. Not at all address, no address is required here, because just a single stack gives the value each and every time, and all the operations are being performed considering the top of the stack value. So top of the stack value is being used, it is being used to add, it is used to give various any type of information. So let's consider one example, a simple example. Here a plus b is being multiplied by the result of c plus d. These are the values, these are the operands value that needs to be fetched by the ALU, and with the help of the control unit signal, of course, that will use the instruction cycle, and by the fetch, decode, execute and storing method, it can fetch various values and then it will perform the add multiply operations. So it will result, the 3 address instruction will result in a short program. It gives the short programs, and the instruction, it becomes very long if we are using the 3 address instructions, because the various for the flexibility purpose and for the ease of the operation, we have used 3 registers, 3 address here, the source, for the source and for the destination. These are the source and this is the ultimate destination where we need to reach, and this is the memory word where the value is being stored. So just in 3 steps we are done, we have calculated the value of x. Whereas in the 2 address instructions, the same operation is being done in 6 statements. That is, we first fetch the value of the operand and then move towards the register 1. Here we have used 2 registers and 2 places. Basically, we can say we have used 2 address fields, one for the operand and another for the destination address. It can be memory word as well, like we are seeing here, it can be the memory word itself. So, basically, it's depending upon the situation, it depending upon the architecture, it depending upon the type of processor that we are using, be it RISC or be it CISC, we decide what type of instruction format we require. Next is the 1 address instruction. Here just the simple accumulator is being used and all the operands are being brought, fetched from the memory location towards the accumulator each and every time, and the value is being stored in the accumulator itself. Like first, the value of the source, this A is fetched and brought to the accumulator, then its value is being added. We need not mention here because this value is already the value that is residing previously. The value of A is there, so we need not mention again and again. So this is the 1 address instruction. The same thing when done by the stack organization, what we see, simply the values, the operations that are performed are being operated on the top of the stack. All the values are brought to the top like this. If this is the stack, then whatever it is pointing, all the values are being brought to the top of the stack, and further the value is being popped out when final value, that is the value of x, is being recovered, then it is popped out. So we can say that depending upon the type of processor, we can decide what type of instruction set architecture we are going to use, and depending upon our requirements, the architect beforehand decides what type of instruction set that we are going to use. So this is a trade-off. This is a channel that is being followed right from the computer architecture design to placing the instruction set architecture by considering the type of processor organization. And then comes the part that where the particular operand is being stored, and that's a part of the address mode, address field, that we will cover definitely in the next lecture. So thanks for watching.